5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Narissa has secured the services of the police and fire department to provide details, and they estimate an additional 25 volunteers, which will be dedicated for the purposes of security. There's a note in the letter about not providing for fireworks. After your meeting 2 weeks ago, there was some talk about that, and we originally had that on the agenda, and Narissa has come back and indicated that that's not part of the plan. Hopefully this addresses any concerns that the board has about that. We will follow up with the police and fire departments to ensure the details have been secured. Number two, 2 weeks ago, I updated you on the dismissal of the case, John and Julie Palermo versus the town of North Reading. It was through the U.S. District Court. It involved a land taking with Eisenhower's. At that time, I noted that the plaintiffs had the right to file for an appeal, and in fact, that appeal has been filed, and briefs will be filed with the appeals court stating the basis of the appeal. And until we get that information, we don't really have anything to report other than a letter saying, I appeal, and you have a copy of that. Mr. Chairman, you had asked us to look into the status of the Middlesex County retirement system relative to a major financial settlement that they were able to achieve with Mellon Bank. As you noted, there was a $16 million settlement that went to the retirement system. You have a copy of a letter that was sent from the email from the retirement system to our town treasurer who followed this up. It's unlikely that the settlement proceeds will be used to lower any local municipal assessments in 2010. Settlement will be reviewed as part of the next system-wide reval on January 1 of 2010, which means that the earliest we will see this money coming in to offset our costs will be July 1 of 2010. And you have a copy of the letter, as I said. Interesting to note, there are a couple of other things that are in there. One of them is a pension holiday. I think it showed up in the notion of the pension holdings, but there was a comment about perhaps the board considering a pension holiday. It would require, obviously, passage of a state law, and that could postpone employer contributions for 1 year. It doesn't necessarily save us money. All it means is that it postpones the payout for 1 additional year. And then also there's a note about the funding schedule being extended beyond 2028, which supposedly will achieve some additional savings to the town in both the short and long term. So,
what, do you have at the tip of your tongue the amount going into our assessment for
as a result of the funding schedule?
Yeah, I guess I have that here somewhere.
I'd have to look it up.
I probably have the sheet here. County retirement is $2.3 million. This current year, fiscal 2009, it's $2,138,978.
I'm sorry, I don't have that detail with me tonight, Mr. Chairman.
No,
I believe you, I just don't have it.
no, I guess the point I'm leading to, if they're talking about postponing a payment, that's a significant amount of money. My point.
Helped tremendously.
Could solve some
FY10.
problems, couldn't it?
What?
Could solve some problems.
Yeah. I'm wondering what it does to us going downstream now, Michael.
I am thinking aloud that it seems like the letter went out with the caveat that it's nothing they've taken a position on yet, unlike the funding schedule. They may be looking for some feedback from city and town officials about that.
Well, it might be worthwhile talking to our town officials about that.
Sorry, we can't use the $16 million. We would like to have that too. That would solve a few more problems, or a piece of the $16 million. Number 4 on my list is just an update. NORCAM has come forward and they've made a proposal for utilizing some of the commercial space at the Damon Tavern. They have approached the Historical Commission. You have a copy of the letter that was in the packet, and the Historical Commission has reacted favorably to their proposal. It would not involve any modifications to the outside of the building, so the Historic District Commission is not involved. But the Historic Commission, which you know is very protective of the Damon Tavern, thinks that it would be a beneficial use, as do I. And they presently we do have a lease with a private property owner. Obviously, NORCAM would need to be a sub-tenant to that lease. I don't see any particular problem with that. I just wanted to bring it before the board so you're aware of that. And then long term, there may be some possibilities beyond when that lease expires of creating what I call, I think, a win-win relationship here, where we could get a stable tenant into the building that would be paying us an amount of money in excess of what we're receiving right now, and possibly benefit a community group that provides a service to the public.
Well, currently the DMAR for the cable, where both Verizon and Comcast come in and go over to the high school, I assume that they would move all of that. That would have to be moved. Which means they would have to have connectivity, cable connectivity from both Verizon and Comcast in that facility. There's also the fiber optics connections that I'm not sure they're making use of now, but there was talk about being used between all the buildings. I'm not sure there was any cable connection over the Damon Tavern. Just something that should be fed back to them before they, I'm hoping they've looked into all of this, because I'm sure there's some cost associated with them doing that. So.
How many more years are on the lease with the current leaseholder?
My recollection is 2 more years. February 2010 is when it would come up for renewal again. Less than, just a little bit over a year.
Because I know there was an extension that was exercised.
Five-year extension was exercised in 2005, and that continues for an additional period of time. However, there's no automatic renewal or extension beyond that.
Okay. Any other questions regarding?
No, I think I wanted to bring it up to you to see if there was any concerns that the board had. I mentioned in NORCAM that I would get back to them after today's meeting, the manager, and relay to him as to whether this was something that the town would support. It really hasn't gone forward yet at this point because it's a municipal building. I'm comfortable with it. The Historical Commission is comfortable with it, but obviously your opinion is important in terms of this thing moving forward.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's, I think NORCAM would end up being a pretty good tenant, for the town eventually down the road. I mean, right now, obviously, we're locked into a contract with a private party another year and a half or so. But I think it's good. And again, I think as far as a tenant going, I mean, we want to see NORCAM succeed, and I think it's a good idea. Thanks.
Me too. I agree. Nice to have a tenant in that building instead of that building vacant.
I'd just like to hear a little more as to, are they moving their basic technology connection there? Are they going to continue running it as in the high school and remote over? Or?
Well, I know the Historical Commission is very sensitive to the appearances of the building and how it's going to be maintained, so I have the utmost confidence of the Historical Commission in making sure that, that it works, and I would think that NORCAM look at the technical end of things and see that it works too, so I think it'd be a good fit if it works out.
Next?
Next is just a presentation, short presentation on the budget.
Mhm.
You refer to the sheet that I included in the packet, which is a brief executive summary of where we stand, kicking off the 2010 budget. 2010 budget for the public is the budget that begins on July 1 of 2009 through June 30th of 2011. And the reason for addressing this right now is the budget is adopted at April town meeting. The town charter does specify the town administrator's role in the budget process. It also indicates that I'll put together a budget, and you'll be getting the big, thick budget books shortly. We do not have them ready tonight, but that will provide all the necessary details accompanying the budget. And then the date for presenting the preliminary municipal budget is set by the board as December 15th. So that's a date that you set. It's a date that I adhere to in terms of where we go. The budget, as is submitted at this date, is not balanced. Is an early date, and is primarily unbalanced for a couple of reasons. The decline in revenues due to unstable economic conditions, we all know about that. Also, the uncertainty over potential reductions in state aid, and those reductions are somewhere, at this point, estimated between 5% on the optimistic side and 10% on the pessimistic side. The municipal budgets that were submitted provide for two possible alternatives. First is a level services budget. This is the same exercise that we've gone through for at least the last 5 years. It's important to know what it costs us to continue our services and our programs with the existing staffing as they exist today. And on the town side, that's about $250,000. So typically what the town needs is about $250,000 to continue its operations as they exist today, and that equates or translates to about a 2.11% increase. The second proposal, and in most years that's kind of a realistic option. However, given the situation that exists today and what will exist going into the budget year, it's really not realistic. So the second component was to request departments submit a reduction budget. And the reduction budget cut out $497,390 from the budget that exists today, and the total reduction was about 6.18%. So that's 6.18% from the budget that was voted at town meeting in April. There's been a budget revision that's been done since then, but this represents a reduction from the total budget that was voted at April town meeting. Under the budget scenario that I've just described, there'd be one municipal department that would see an increase, and that would be the Veteran Services Department, where we have a legal mandate to, legal and moral obligation to fund that. The Veterans Agent has indicated that he anticipates an increase in services, so we have budgeted an increase accordingly. There would be no other new services, programs, or staffs added under either the reduction budget or the level services budget. The revenue forecast, and we've been through this before, so I don't want to spend a lot of time going over it, because realize that it's a revenue forecast. We're trying to forecast out something that's going to happen 7 months from now. We all know how difficult that is, and you only need to look at the price of gasoline going back to this summer and seeing it $4 a gallon, and the experts all promised that you'd never see gasoline at $4 again, and look where we are today. So the total receipts, and I really want to hit on the high areas. The total receipts are local receipts, which are local fees, permits, motor vehicle excise tax. Those are forecast to decline about $190,000 from the conservative assumptions that we used in setting the FY 2009 tax rate. So for those who are watching, we established a revenue budget for the April town meeting, which was conservative. We went back prior to setting the tax rate a month ago. We revisited those assumptions. We lowered those assumptions to reflect current economic conditions, and what we saw is a decrease in the level of revenue that we were receiving. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go